Hi, Ms. Bolton. I'm Mr. Bell from the county. I'm here today to go over Hunter's data with you. Before we get started, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, so by data, do you mean like Hunter's grades?
No, I mean more like her assessment scores, specifically the FSA and the FAIR, the Florida Assessment in Reading. It's all going to be in here. I don't have personal experience with Hunter. I'm not her teacher, but I'm going to be just going over her assessment scores and how you can interpret those and what we're going to be doing about them to hopefully um, boost Hunter's scores next year.
Okay.
So to start it off, I'm just showing you the information, the demographics we have on Hunter. You should be familiar with all this information. It should look familiar to you. Um, but we do have Hunter as specific learning disabled and finger reduced lunch, two things I'd like to point out. Because we at the county like to take those kinds of things into consideration when working with different students, because it really can affect a student a lot and our instructional decisions. But that's just all information that you're probably familiar with. So here's Hunter's scores from this year. So she took the reading and math FSAs. On the reading FSA first on the left side of our screen here, she scored a level 1. If you're not aware, the FSA reading is out of 5. A level 3 is what is considered proficient by the state. That's kind of like their goal to see that someone's on grade level. Hunter scored a 286, which is considered a mid-level 1. The different levels are broken up into different score brackets. We'll get more into that later when we talk about how Hunter can make a learning gain. The reading FSA, just if you're not aware, it's reading and a writing components. That's two different tests administered on different days, and that score together is what ended up Hunter with the score of a 286, which is the level 1. On the math, Hunter did remarkably similar to her reading score, actually. She's also level 1 on the math, which is same as reading out of 5, level 3 considered proficient. She scored a 287, which again is considered a mid-level 1. So that's her scores this year in 7th grade. Just if you're curious, I wanted to show you district and state scores so you could kind of compare Hunter's performance to that. You can see down here, this is the distribution of scores in Polk County. 35% of students, along with Hunter, scored a level 1 on the reading this year. 49% of students in the state are proficient with compared to 42% at Polk County. So you can see Hunter's not alone in her score of a level 1. Similar in math, 37% of students in Polk County scored a level 1 on math, and 52% of students in the state are proficient in math, and 42% again of students in Polk County. So Hunter is right there with a lot of other students in her score. So learning gain. This is really something that I think is the biggest takeaway that you and Hunter can have from today. This here is like our real goal for every student every year, is not necessarily to become proficient, because it's difficult sometimes to make a leap of 2 points on an FSA test. But our goal is for every student to make what's called a learning gain. So if you don't know what learning gain is, it's basically to move up one of those buckets that I was talking about earlier. So right now Hunter's a mid-level 1. And how we get there is we look at this table that has all of our scores broken down into low, medium, and high levels. And we find Hunter's scale score, and then we go find where that fits on our chart. So Hunter scored 287. So if we look for 287 in 7th grade, we find it right there, 284 to 300, a mid-level 1. So for Hunter to make a learning gain, she needs to go up to the high level 1. But the trick is that next year Hunter's not taking the 7th grade FSA. So this 301 you see here isn't accurate. It's actually going to be a 306 because she'll be in 8th grade. So she's 286 this year. She's going up to a 306 next year, hopefully, to make a learning gain, and that's how she'll do that. It'll be a 20-point gain for her to make a learning gain. That's our goal for Hunter. 20 points is not a walk in the park. There's some students who get lucky. They end up at the high end of a bucket, and then they are a couple questions off from a learning gain, but 20 points is very, very reasonable. If we go down to math down here, because her scores were so similar, then her learning gains are also very similar. Again, she is in a mid-level 1, and again, she needs to make it to a 306, and because she was a 287 this time, she'll need 19 points to make a learning gain. So that's our goal for this year. Do you understand how Hunter is going to make a learning gain?
Yes.
Okay, good. So yeah. So now the other test I talked about at the beginning of our conversation, Hunter's FAIR data, which FAIR stands for Florida Assessment in Reading. So lots of numbers here. The number that tells me the most whenever I look at FAIR data is this first one, the probability of literary success. So you can see Hunter took this test, which is a reading test, by the way, and her probability of literary success turned out to be a 0.31. This number is supposed to be an estimate of the likelihood of Hunter passing a year-end exam. So that means that since she's a 0.31, this test estimates her as a 31% likelihood of passing an end-of-year exam. There's 3 different things that this test measured Hunter for, which is word recognition, vocabulary knowledge, and reading comprehension. These are her scores over here on the left, 454, 502, and 367. Now I know most of those numbers probably don't mean a lot to you right now, which is why I've put the Florida averages down here. So you can see Hunter is lagging a little bit behind in all 3 subjects. And I've also put here in green her percentile ranks. She ranks 5th in the state in word recognition, 5th in the 5th percentile, I should say, in the state in word recognition, the 17th in vocabulary knowledge, and the 3rd in reading comprehension. This next slide I put together mostly because it goes into more detail about the numbers, like whatever I'm saying now is on the slide, and I'm going to share this with you after our meeting so that you'll have access to it. One last thing on the percentiles is just if you're not used to talking in percentiles, what that basically means is that if she's in the 5th percentile, she scored better than 5% of students in the state. If she's in the 17th, she scored better than 17% of students in the state. This all just kind of breaks down those numbers more, so you're able to take it home and go over it and with Hunter or whoever you want. One last thing about the numbers, the 454, the 502, and the 367, that is on a 150 to 1,000 point scale. That is supposed to ideally go up every year for students as long as they're putting in work and things like that. So hopefully all 3 of those numbers, if Hunter is tested again next year, will be higher. Okay, so we'll move on. So now to what we can do to help Hunter in Polk County. One, maximize your academic learning time. This is obviously something that goes for all students, but it's something that we really want to emphasize with someone who is a little bit behind like Hunter. That just means whenever she's in the classroom, we want her to be focused on skills that will be helping her. How we do that is by engaging her in meaningful activities. For instance, we're going to be focusing on the foundational skills with Hunter because that's probably why she's lagging behind in a lot of areas, is because she hasn't developed those foundational skills. I'm talking about phonemic and phonological awareness, decoding, fluency, things like that. We're also going to identify some essential curriculum components for her and get her to focus on those because we think that'll be a good way of getting her to catch up.
What does that mean?
The curriculum components.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say essential curriculum components, we basically mean since Hunter is going to need to spend some time in the classroom developing these foundational skills that other students in her class might not need the same amount of practice on if they're already maybe a level 3 or 4 or 5 on the FSA. We're going to need to pull out the essential parts of the curriculum for her that are going to get her to focus on those standards. Because we're not going to dumb anything down for Hunter. We're still going to have the same complexity and rigor for the standards for Hunter as for everyone else. But we're going to look at her situation and say, okay, what are the essential parts of this specific curriculum, this specific class, that can get her to work on the standards so that everything else we can maybe take that time away from the curriculum and give it more to building those foundational skills that Hunter needs to be successful. So it's really just the most important parts of the curriculum for working on the standard, but still getting her to work on the standard. And yeah, one last thing about that is you can see at the bottom it says emphasize proactive and positive approaches across different tiers of instructional intensity. That basically means that we're not going to be giving Hunter simpler tasks or less depth of knowledge tasks. Things are still going to be equally as rigorous and complex for Hunter, just we're on our end, we're going to be doing more building her foundational skills and scaffolding things for her. A few more things that will be done in her classroom by her teacher. The teacher will be taking notes on her oral fluency, which often means asking her to read something orally to her as a way of measuring her phonological awareness and giving Hunter immediate feedback on that as a way of teaching, and taking in that data on the teacher's end as a form of formative assessment so that the teacher can modify the curriculum based on Hunter's needs. Hunter will also be given feedback on her reading comprehension daily. One way that teachers like to measure reading comprehension in class is to, after something is read, either individually by the student or out loud by the teacher or something like that, asking students like Hunter to predict what will happen next in the story or maybe summarize information that was just read to them. And based on the accuracy of the prediction to the summarization, the teacher can measure reading comprehension. To help with vocabulary, we're going to make sure that Hunter is actively and accurately using words from not just the current unit that's being worked on in whatever class, but from throughout the whole cumulative school year. And speaking of vocabulary, we'll have Hunter complete some diagnostic tests as a sort of pre-test before you go on to the next unit, as a way of measuring where she's at with her vocabulary knowledge. It's kind of essential to the next unit. In whatever gaps there are in her understanding, we'll be filling those in with scaffolding. A lot of Hunter's reteaching, building of foundational skills and scaffolding vocabulary knowledge and things like that will come in the form of small group in her classroom. A lot of teachers like to, maybe a couple days a week, break students into different small groups with other students of similar skill level or similar needs, I should say. So, maybe one group will go off and do something else, and Hunter's group will come and work on the things that they need to work on that maybe other students don't need to work on. They're working on things that Hunter's already got mastered. So that's when we'll be doing a lot of this stuff. Also, after assessments, formative assessments throughout the school year, diagnostic assessments throughout the school year, Hunter will be involved in review of whole group trends, just like teachers like to do. If the class does poorly in one certain standard, we'll go over that certain skill again with the class and with the whole group. And then for the ones that are specific to Hunter that she struggled with, that's what will be worked on in the one-on-one or the small group setting. So it's not like Hunter is being pulled out individually on a consistent basis. She's still going to be working with her entire class regularly. So yeah, that is Hunter's data. I hope that you learned something from this presentation, and I will send you the PowerPoint.
Thank you.